Almost done. Just have to add in a few more facts here and there. The Wikitree profile for Stan Lee is complete. Everyone is gonna love this. I think you all know what this video is going to be about. On November 12, 2018, the world bid farewell to a legend in the comic book industry. The legend's name was Stan Lee, and he co-created most of the Marvel characters we know and love. From heroes such as the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and the Avengers, to villains such as Doctor Doom, the Green Goblin, Magneto, and Galactus. These days, many of those characters thrive on the big and small screen alike. Why? Well, to understand that, you have to understand the man. No pun intended. Actually, I lied. That was intentional. Lee was born Stanley Martin Lieber on December 28, 1922, to Jacob Aaron Lieber and Celia Solomon. He grew up in the heart of New York City during the Great Depression and did many odd jobs until a relative of his gave him a job working for Timely Comics, the company which eventually became Marvel Comics. He did a lot of editing and writing, and by the early 1960s he was debating ending his writing career. That was until his wife Joan told him to create one last thing and retire with style. The Justice League was already making waves over at the Distinguished Competition, and his publisher, Martin Goodman, wanted something to compete with their colorful cast of characters. First up was the Fantastic Four, and you can't get much more colorful than a scientist who, despite his doubts and insecurities, is actually the world's greatest royal smart person. His fiercely independent fiancée, her hot-headed teenage brother, and a man who may look like a monster on the outside, but is really a hero with a heart of gold. That was just the beginning. Fans loved the characters because, unlike other superheroes at the time, the Fantastic Four were all too human and had faults and foibles. They worried if they were going to make rent, as well as whether or not Doctor Doom was going to lift the island of Manhattan up from its foundation using some mad science. That actually happened, by the way. If you thought comics were weird today, well, you should really check out some Silver Age books. So weird. This more human style of writing struck a chord with readers everywhere, as fan mail flooded the offices. Goodman asked Stan to create other characters in a similar style. In rapid succession, more new and exciting characters the world had never seen before made their debut. The list is extensive, but some of these characters include the Incredible Hulk, the Amazing Spider-Man, Daredevil, and teams such as the Uncanny X-Men and the Avengers. Earth's mightiest heroes would even be led by a returning fan favorite from the Golden Age named Captain America, under Stan's watchful eye. It didn't stop there. He continued to create more and more characters which greatly expanded the universe. And the best part is that he showed that everyone can be a hero. Everyone. No longer were they confined to just being a muscle-bound He-Man from the Golden Age. These heroes came in all colors, races, genders, and ages, at a time when the very idea of teenagers being the headliner of a book was often ridiculed. Just think, we have Joan to thank for the creation of the Marvel Universe. If Stan Lee was the father, then she was the mother. Makes perfect sense. The heroes and villains took on lives of their own, as Lee, with the help of awesome artists like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, helped to define the newborn universe. They all played their role in bringing the comics to life. They told stories which had heart, soul, and humanity. And eventually, even DC Comics began to put that same heart and energy into their own creations. After that, the comics industry would forever be changed. Stan even tested what could and couldn't be done under the Comics Code, the governing body which at the time decided what could and couldn't be allowed in comic books. Eventually, the people who grew up reading the early Marvel Universe became writers and artists themselves. The old guard moved on, and the characters still thrived under the watchful pens and brushes of new creators who built on the universe created by Stan Lee and others. He inspired generations of people with his work, and I was one of them. Like many people, my first exposure to Stan Lee was through Spider-Man. I grew up watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and right away I fell in love with the wall crawler. There was this character who, for the lack of a better word, was a nerd and outcast. And yet he had these fantastic abilities. I was hooked. Right away, I needed to find Spider-Man related toys in the aisles. I couldn't find any. Not even those Secret Wars toys. Don't worry, it's not like I was deprived or anything. As I got older, I became interested in comic books, and I got my first comic at the store next to my father's dental office. I remember walking into the place with my parents and seeing all the different comics. DC mainstays like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman were on the shelves, and I walked right by them, much to my dad's confusion. One of my favorite movies growing up was the Christopher Reeve Superman, and I guess he was just surprised to see me walk right by everything. Instead, I went straight down the aisle to the Marvel section and got this. The Amazing Spider-Man Masterworks Collection. It collected the first 6 comics featuring the Amazing Spider-Man, and it had a foreword by Stan Lee himself. It's still in decent condition, too. I took this book everywhere. That wasn't the only thing I did. I studied the stories, and I wanted more, much to my parents' dismay. I'm joking. They actually encouraged me quite a bit. It kept me out of trouble. Sometimes. I was hooked on the characters because of all the things I talked about earlier. It's hard to explain. Stan had this unique quality when he wrote, and the best part is that he never wrote exclusively to children. He wrote for everyone, so that no one felt like they were being talked down to or belittled. You all probably have heard this story 1,000 times by 1,000 different people. He was just that inspirational, and his style of writing took you into worlds beyond your imagination. It was only helped by his work with creative people like Ditko, Kirby, and others. And that's where this came in. Like many people, Stan's work inspired me to draw many of his characters. I'm hesitant to show them here because I am not that great at drawing. You know what? Neither was he, so we had that in common. Drawing Spider-Man and others only took me so far, and I felt like I wanted to create my own heroes in my own universe. And that's how the Starbolts webcomic was born. I really feel like that had I not gotten into comics, I wouldn't have been inspired to create my own characters who, like Stan's characters, had their own faults and personalities. I'm not alone. Others have created their own characters professionally or just as a hobby. Stan seemed to have been the kind of man who inspired others to create without ever meeting him and shaking his hand. That's the kind of power he had. What, you think he just climb walls and shoot webbing? No. He is the Watcher. Don't believe me? Check out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's canon. Go on, go watch it. Pun intended. Stan Lee inspired me and countless people around the world to create their own characters, and for that I thank him. He sparked my imagination, which had already been heavily influenced by science fiction shows my family and I watched together. The comics he wrote and the characters he created sparked not just my imagination, but maybe you, watching this video, were also inspired in some way by the man who basically added on to the already awesome mythology that is the comic book universe. Though the man may be gone, His characters, of course, will live on in the pages of comics, video games, and screens, both large and small, for years to come. They're timeless, each and every one of them, and though they've changed writers and artists over the years, the core of their characters remain. As for me, well, it goes without saying that Stan was a huge impact on my life. He co-created one of my all-time favorite characters, and his stories helped to inspire me to get into writing. Maybe you, watching this video, were also inspired by Stan Lee and want to do something just as creative as he did. It wouldn't be the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last. That is the staying power of Stanley Martin Lieber, a guy born in the heart of New York City who grew up to become an icon in the industry. It's obvious how he affected my life. Perhaps he did the same for you. You know, I guess one man really can make a difference. Enough said. See you in the funny pages, true believers. Excelsior! Almost done. Just have to add in a few more facts here. And there. The WikiTree profile for Stan Lee is complete. Everyone is going to love this. I think you all know what this video is going to be about. My cat's scratching. It'll be very educational. You done over there? Good girl.